इतने दिन लेक्चर दे रहे थे, बट आज फाइनली समझ में आया कि क्लास के पहले या किसी भी पाठ के पहले हम सबसे पहले शांति पाठ क्यों चांट करते हैं। शांति पाठ क्यों करते हैं हम? एंड इफ यू हैवंट फिगर्ड इट आउट येट, the example is right around you. We have some companions, uncalled for companions. No matter how cute they are, we have one more out there, slightly bigger companion. We have
Clouds.
a gushing wind out here, which I didn't anticipate at all. I thought I would be standing by the riverside. There's a beautiful place I thought I would take class from, where I could stand and not that this is any less beautiful, but it was so windy that my laptop was flying away. You can imagine. And luckily, I found a slight. I mean, of course, the wind has abated a bit right now, but I found a slight shelter under a tree. So very humbling lessons, and truly understand why before every class we chant the Shanti part and say Om Shanti, 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 Shanti to the entire cosmos. Keep it quiet so that I can focus on my study. Shanti to the surroundings, don't disturb me so that I can study. Shanti to these little dogs and these cows and all these other creatures around us. Keep quiet because right now I'm doing something more important, right? And of course, then the inner Shanti. Bring yourself to a place of quiet and poise because there's only that much you can control the outer surrounding. There's only that much we can control what's happening around us. Ultimately, if we bring ourselves to a poise, if we bring ourselves to a place of peace and stability, we can manage whatever we need to manage. Okay, so with that thought, we'll start today. Thank you very much for joining. Oh, प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित् सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. Am I audible? There are no other disturbances, right?
Audible.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yes,
We'll
audible.
chant verse number 35 to 39 of chapter 6. Verse number 35 to 39. Shri Bhagavanuvāca असंशयं महाबाहो मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येण च गृह्यति. श्रीभगवानुवाच असंशयं महाबाहो मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येण च गुह्यति. असंयतात्मना योगः दुष्प्राप दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मा तु यत् वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमपायतः. असंयतात्मना योगः दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमपायतः. अर्जुन उवाच अयति श्रद्धयोपेतः योगाचलितमानसः अप्राप्य योगसंसिद्धिम् कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति। अर्जुन उवाच अयति श्रद्धयोपेतः योगाचलितमानसः अप्राप्य योगसंसिद्धिम् कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति। कच्चिन्नो भयविभ्रष्टः छिन्नाभ्रमिव नश्यति। अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढो ब्रह्मणः पथि। कच्चिनो भयविभ्रष्टः छिन्नाभ्रमिव नश्यति। अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढो ब्रह्मणः पथि। एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेत्तुमर्हस्य शेषतः। वदन्यः संशयस्यास्य छेत्तानुयुपद्यते। एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेत्तुमर्हस्य शेषतः। वदन्यः संशयस्यास्य छेत्तानुयुपपद्यते। Okay, chapter 6, verse 35. Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Arjuna has asked a question and presented a very valid doubt, which is definitely a doubt lurking in all your minds. For the last couple of classes, we've been talking about meditation, meditation, meditation. We've been talking about the state of a person who is qualified or perhaps has attained the fruits of meditation. And it seems all far and very clear. It seems like an unattainable state. It seems something so far removed from the reality of our own minds today. So Arjuna has a very pertinent question he asked in the last couple of verses, where he said, look, all well with whatever you have said, but I don't see the stability. I don't see the lasting stability of whatever you are talking about. I don't think the mind can be brought under control. The mind is like the wind. It is asthira. It is pramati. It is balavat. It is dridham. It is unstable. It is obstinate. It is powerful. And it is strong. It is turbulent. I don't see this, practically speaking. That was what we left with, a very honest confession on the part of Arjuna, which is speaking about all our minds, which has all these qualities. But before we take it up, I'll take up any questions that we may have from the previous classes. And you. Can you unmute? You can unmute. Go ahead.
So, sir, I have two questions from the verses and one from a song by Kabir.
Okay.
So, one question is from verse 30.
Hmm.
When the verse states, last verse, when the verse states that the Atman also does not lose sight of the enlightened one, it seems to contradict the image of Atman as a detached witness of all beings. Atman is ever free and immaculate. Atman has no influence on the quality of actions executed. It has no bondage to beings. The statement merely implies that an enlightened person, having transcended his material equipments, will thereafter always express the divinity into which he has merged. This portion I have not understood.
Okay. What have you not understood?
So this he's saying that in one way the Atman is never attached. At the same time, it is what the first sentence is actually. The enlightened one seems to contradict the image of Atman as a detached witness, ever free, has no influence. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it um, My question is that only which he's saying that contradiction thing. I wanted to understand what exactly is the contradiction.
Okay. So when you look at this knowledge from the perspective of jnanam, when you look at this knowledge from the perspective of philosophy, we say that the Atman, we say that God is Nirguna, Nishkriya, Nirvikalpa, Nirakara. It is formless, it is unmanifest, it is inconceivable, achintya, right? We give all these terms to describe what is God, what is the Atman, what is the real Godhood that is residing within you. It is beyond what your intellect can comprehend, right? We give it a name, we call it Atman. We give it a term, we call it God. But actually, it is something that is incomprehensible. At the same time, it is something that is inactive, akarta. It is not performing any action. It is simply the enlivening principle which enables gunas to function. Whatever gunas you have, based on those gunas, you will perform action. Action is the consequence of vasana, guna. But the Atman is the akarta. It does not perform any action. It has nothing to do with what you do also. The Atman is the same in a sinner or a saint. The Atman is not telling the sinner, don't be so sinful, perform less sin. The Atman is not telling the saint, well done, saint, you're doing a great job. The Atman is the detached Sakshi. It is simply a witness. This is the perspective of Jnanam, the philosophy. And it is true, it is the fact. That is something that is incomprehensible to us. समझ में नहीं आता. We can't relate to it. जिसने वो अनुभव किया है, जिसने ध्यान के उस शांति में, उस दिव्य दृष्टि से एसेंशियली आत्मन को पहचाना है, वही जानता है जो अनुभवी है. बट फॉर यू एंड मी, these are mere words. It is Shabda Brahman, as he says. He'll say in a couple of verses. It's Shabda Brahman. It's all theoretical. So to make something so sound that seems so esoteric and seems so inconceivable, more relatable, we have created a form of the divinity. We have created a symbol of the divinity. We have given it, it's called anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic means like the human. So the human mind can't conceive God. So let's give God a human-like form to make it conceivable. Out here, Arjuna is speaking to Lord Krishna, Bhagavan. Bhagavan, when Bhagavan is speaking, he's not speaking as the person Krishna, he's speaking as God itself in the form of Krishna. Why? Because in the form of Krishna, it is more relatable. In the form of Krishna, it is speaking to me. So when he's saying, when Lord Krishna is saying, he who sees me everywhere, when he's saying me, it's Bhagavan speaking as the Atman, he who sees the Atman everywhere. But for a Jnani, they understand what it means. But for the rest of us, it's esoteric. So the Bhakta in us needs to connect with a form, right? So in that same poetic, relatable sense, he says, I am not lost to him. As if the Atman, as if God has a choice. Oh, we think, oh, because the sinner is sinning all the time, God is moving away from him. No, God is not moving anywhere away. God is the same in a sinner or a saint. The sinner is moving away from God. That's what you need to understand. By their own actions, by their own mental preoccupations, by their own thoughts, they are so alien to God that they have moved away from God. But for a bhakta to make it more intricate, see, a bhakta relates to this language. A bhakt will say, भगवान प्रसन्न होंगे. जैसे ही मालूम पड़ा कि भगवान प्रसन्न होंगे, अब तो ये करूंगा ही करूंगा. अरे, अब think about it in an organization. Does the CEO have time for everyone? Uh, but you still want to make a gesture towards the CEO, thinking CEO prasanna honge. Now the CEO won't think any less of you if you don't do something. The CEO won't necessarily think any more of you if you don't do something. This CEO has other preoccupations. Uh, but for the employee, see, sometimes I'm very privileged to, be in the leadership of an organization. So whenever I go to the office, the peons will be like, "Sir, sir, sir, sir." You know. Now, with all genuine affection, I appreciate their tenderness. But had they not been doing sir, 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 I wouldn't be thinking any less of them. You know. Of course, that doesn't mean they should be rude and offensive. They should have a basic etiquette. But that urge in a peon to look at someone who is providing for them, right? Uh, with that sense of awe. That is how a bhakta looks at God, with a sense of God, with a sense of awe. You are providing for me. You are caring for me. As such, God is Sakshi. But the bhakta feels more connected when they hear this kind of language, right? It's true for the bhakta in you also. We all have an element of bhakti in us. It creates a connection. So in that tone of a bhakta, he says, I am not lost to him. Now, when this verse states that Atman does not lose sight of the enlightened, it does not mean that the Atman is detached. Is not detached. It's not a contradiction. It's only conveying in a certain poetic, in a certain emotional, devotional sense that the enlightened one is connected. Right? It's a poetic way of saying that you will never lose me. There's no devolution from here. You can't unlearn it. You can't unrealize. Once you've got it, you've got it. In a poetic way, it is said that I am not lost to him. Uh, It's an it's an assurance that the Lord is giving that there's no, special quota. Atman doesn't follow a special quota status. You do your part, all will be good. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So when he does not lose sight, for the sake of the text, I'm going to read. When the verse states that Atman does not lose sight, it does seem to contradict that the Atman is detached. Here it seems attached. However, Atman is ever free and immaculate. It is the Sakshi. It has no influence on the quality of action. The quality of actions is determined by your gunas. It has no bondage. It has no interference. It has nothing to do with a sinner or a saint. The statement merely implies, in a devotional tone, it merely implies that an enlightened person, having been through the entire spiritual journey and transcended the material, mundane existence, will always be connected to divinity, always express the divinity in all ways and forms. The divinity will speak through them, through their actions, through their thoughts, right? So they'll become a picture, they'll become a medium of God. That's why we call even individuals Bhagavan.
Yeah.
Why do we call Sri Krishna Bhagavan, in a sense? Why do we call Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi? Because they have merged into the divinity and now they are expressing the divinity through themselves, through their being. So, in this tradition, of course, it's not a term which should be loosely given to anyone and everyone. It is a time tested term that, of course, even if someone gets the term, it's not easy to sustain if they haven't truly had that influence. But there have been innumerable such great souls in this land who have risen to that state of Bhagavan through their own sadhana and through whom divinity is expressing. Right?
Thank you so much.
Next question.
Next question is from that Kabir song, Habka Udave Chadariya. So there are these two lines which I felt. The one is that भीतर से जब बाहर लाए टूट गई सब महल अटरिया. So why भीतर से जब बाहर लाए? It's normally in words.
भीतर से जब बाहर लाए
छूट गई सब महल अटरिया. So this
वो अभी गुह्य है, वो अभी भीतर है. आप भीतर से बाहर लाओ मतलब आप अंदर जाओ, अंदर झांको अपने अंदर, और वो जो गुह्य, वो जो सीक्रेट है, जो आप में है विराजमान, उसे बाहर लाओ, मतलब
Okay.
मैनिफेस्ट इट इन योर लाइफ. हाँ, dig it out. There's a treasure hidden within you. You have to dig it out. Only when you realize that treasure that is hidden within you and you dig it out and you see what it's worth, you'll realize everything else that you have. It's like, someone who is having a lot of value for the small hut and maybe a small FD they have in their name. Huh? They suddenly realize gold prices have risen so much, uh, and they realize they have 100 kgs of gold lying 6 feet under. Immediately they'll unearth it. What will become the value of the small 3 BHK house on 300 square yards plot? When you have 100 kgs of gold, what is the value of a 300 square yards plot? It's loose change. Uh, Even in relative terms, suppose you suddenly realize you have someone long lost has left you a couple of 100 crores. What will happen to your 3 crore plot sitting in some corner of Gurugram? You will realize it is relatively meaningless, right? So in that sense, when you draw out the divinity, when you discover the divinity that is within you and you bring it to surface, when you express it through your own experience, then everything else that you seem to have valued fades. It loses value, right?
Thank you. And the third one is from the question which Arjun asks,
Hmm.
33 last verse. And so basically, how can such a mind ever attain enduring stability? That same question. Um, uh, don't you feel that it's the more equanimous we are with everyone, like that's the first thing we should encourage in ourselves? Like somewhere I was reading that if you are always engaging with a variety of people from every strata and every thing is also it helps you to build like that non-judgmental and see like people with a lot of equanimity. Does that help with this same question? Like how do you attain stability?
I'll answer your question as we go through class. Yeah. Any other question?
Utsav, I had a question.
Haji, Anju ji.
This is actually verse 29, the last para. I don't know what my question is, but I just can't understand it. I've read it like 10 times over.
Uh,
I'm not understanding this self, I mean, I thought this was contradicting with the chapter, with the verse we just discussed, the end of 30. I
hmm.
thought these two were contradicting each other. Either I'm not understanding something there or.
Okay. United by the self in yoga, he sees the self in all beings, and all beings in the self, he sees the same everywhere. Every human being comprises the physical body, mind, intellect, and the supreme self. Being a composite personality, he has a choice to focus his attention and interest in any one or more of his components. If he chooses to identify with the body, he turns a mere physical being. Consequently, he sees everything in physical terms. Likewise, choosing to identify with mind, he becomes emotional. Identify with intellect assumes intellectual personality. Extending the same principle upon identifying with the self, he merges with the self and sees the self and the self alone everywhere. Okay, what is it that you couldn't understand? Can you
So this
just,
last 2 3 lines, extending the same principle upon identifying with the self, he merges with the self and sees the self.
yeah,
This
the
particular.
as you think, so you become. This is the principle. As you think, so you become. If you're constantly thinking about the body, first of all, if you're constantly thinking about money, you'll forget the body also. Huh? You'll become like Kubera. All the time, money. You'll have a lot of money, but you won't be able to do anything with it because your body is beyond repair. You've never really cultivated deep emotions and deep relationships. Forget anything more deeper like an intellectual or spiritual pursuit. So if your thought is, or if your emphasis is all the time on the material, that's what you'll have. That's what you'll merge with. You may live in a palatial home, but you'll be hollow inside, right? Not to say that money is not important, but it has a relative importance. If you give all the importance on the outside, on the material, there'll be nothing. You'll be hollow from inside. Well, if you then shift your attention to the body, which is the most apparent aspect of your personality, you'll become a mere physical being. All you'll be concerned about is your height, weight, complexion. Oh, my skin is sagging. Oh, I'm getting stress lines. Nowadays, men are also getting Botox. I'm not commenting on whether it's right or wrong. I'm just talking about the emphasis on the body. I'm just highlighting the next big thing is going to become a men's cosmetic brand. Emphasis on the body, consciousness of the body. If you're constantly only thinking about the body, you become that. You become the body. Whatever happens to the body happens to you. A small scratch, a small injury in your body is an injury to your soul. People, I distinctly remember telling people this when I had a ACL tear. ACL is this um, ligament, anterior cruciate ligament. It's the ligament and the back of your knee. Okay, and when you tear the ligament beyond a certain degree, beyond repair, you have to get a surgery. And when you get a surgery, it's 6 weeks of rest, slow rehabilitation. It takes almost 7 to 8 months to get fully recovered. And if you're sincere with it, you'll get back to full mobility. So, I had an ACL tear about 7, 8 years ago, and I was just out of the ashram. I was just coming out of the ashram. And I remember researching, okay, whether I should get surgery, not surgery, what people do, what are the options, etc., etc. But what I found online was the mental trauma that people are dealing with because of an ACL tear. The hardest thing I had to deal with was the difficulty of being immobile. Uh, it was causing emotional trauma, emotional trauma. Why? Because there's a incredible amount of importance you're giving to the body. You leave the body alone, it'll heal. Of course, you do your 5, 6 things you have to do, but all the time thinking about the body, 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 it becomes a burden on you. Anything that happens to the body, and things will always happen to the body. The body is subject to heat and cold. Oh, it's very uncomfortable. Oh, it's very distracting. I don't like it. In the spiritual path, we need to learn to practice a little bit of titiksha, a little bit of inconvenience. We have to endure it, particularly at the level of the body. But nonetheless, if you constantly think about the body, you become a physical personality. Similarly, constantly thinking about the mind, you become an emotional personality. All the time, emotions, emotions. उनको कैसा लगता है, मुझे कैसा लगता है, कैसा फील हो रहा है, उनका मन कैसे रखूं, अपना मन कैसे रखूं, what do you wish, what do you want, खाने में क्या चाहिए, ये क्या चाहिए, all the time trying to please and appease. It's not a bad thing, but एक चंगुल है ये. It's a web. It's an entanglement.
Your focus gets on that then.
You become that.
Hmm.
You become that.
Understood.
किसी ने कुछ बोल दिया, ड्रामा शुरू. किसी ने कुछ अच्छा बोल दिया, 10 दिन आपके चेहरे से रौनक नहीं जाएगी. And people take advantage of that. भक्ति मार्ग में तो यही होता है ना. People take advantage of your emotions. खुदा ना खास्ता if you are not in the right hands, which happens. Similarly, if you focus on an intellectual goal, you become that. That becomes your personality. That becomes your identity, as they say, right? In that same spirit, if you focus on the Atman, if you focus on the self, if you focus on your spiritual journey to attain enlightenment, that's what you become. As you think, so you become. It becomes your predisposition, it becomes your very identity. It's a thought with which you wake up every day, it's a thought with which you conduct yourself every moment. That's the principle. As you think, so you become. It may be inconceivable when it comes to the self, to the Atman, to the spiritual path, because it's something we are not used to. But you can understand it at this level, right? At the level of the body, you can understand it at the level of emotions. What you need to do is to bring in a little bit of element of spirituality. You will begin to embody that. You'll begin to live that. And slowly, slowly increase the proportion. From a physical being, try to become an emotional being. You're expanding your horizons. From an emotional being, try to pick up on some intellectual purpose. You're widening your horizons. From an intellectual purpose, expand it to the ultimate. That's when you reach your full expression as a human being. Yep.
Thank you, got it.
Okay. Verse number 35. Any other questions now? Shri Bhagavan Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Gruhyate. Shri Bhagavan Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Gruhyate. In answer to Arjuna's question, the Blessed Lord, Shri Bhagavan, said, doubtless, Asamshayam, doubtless, the mind is restless and difficult to control, O Mahabaho. O Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, O great person, you're absolutely right. Doubtless. Satyavachan, you have said the exactly correct thing. The mind is indeed restless. The mind is indeed difficult to control. But But tu abhyasena, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grichyati. But it can be controlled by abhyasa, practice, and vairagya, dispassion. Before I jump into the verse, I just want to highlight a very practical lesson that Lord Krishna is teaching us in trying to convey anything to anyone. If you're trying to convey a piece of information, if you're trying to convey a message, if you're trying to convey any knowledge, generally people are not receptive. And even if people are receptive, even if people have the willingness to learn, they're too caught up in their own ideas, in their own perspective. I'm just going to get up. A little uncomfortable now. I hope you can hear me. You can hear me, right? I'm going to sit here.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, generally, people are caught up in their own perspectives and they simply want validation. This is a weakness of the human mind. Wanting validation for what you think you know and what you think is correct. Now, either you can lament it, either you can criticize people about it. But criticizing them will only alienate them further. Criticizing people for this quality is going to only push them further away from you. Your purpose is to get your message across to them because the message is important. So you must use psychological technique with that in mind. So this is a beautiful psychological technique. People seek validation of their ideas. So do not confront it head on. Even if their understanding is limited, do not confront it head on. Rather, to whatever extent their perspective may be correct, validate it. Or at least be in the path of least resistance. So Arjuna is saying it's impossible. I don't think it's possible. I think it's really difficult. Absolutely, Arjuna. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. This mind is difficult. This mind is hard to control. This mind is indeed very restless. However, but abhyasa and abhyasa and vairagya, abhyasena to kaunteya, with practice and with dispassion, it can be controlled. Now, this is true as very often we have seen in this chapter. This is true for the ultimate spiritual destination, the ultimate destination of the spiritual path, which is enlightenment. This is also true for the journey, even if you wish to grow, right? We've talked endlessly about the stages of the spiritual path. I'm going to bring it up again on the screen, just for the sake of people to recollect. 7 stages of the spiritual path. You remember this? So Arjuna is saying, "Oh Krishna, I think the mind is very difficult to control." You're absolutely right, Arjuna. The mind is indeed very restless and very difficult to control. When you are in the stage of bhoga and yoga. When you are in the stage of bhoga and yoga, it is very difficult to control. Depends on what level of control you're talking about. This verse can have two interpretations. If you're talking about that ultimate state of control of single pointed concentration, if you're talking about that bringing the mind to that single fiber, that single mantra, that single point of concentration in the depth of meditation, yes, even in meditation, you'll find that the mind is hard to control. In that state, you need to do abhyasa. Abhyasa in that context means practice of meditation. Practice of meditation. And for someone in that state, they end up meditating for months on end, for hours on end, days on end without, and they have that ability. So, for someone in the ultimate stage of meditation, abhyasa, constant practice, practice, practice is the way. And you'll find that it happens for those who are in that state. That's the reassurance of the Lord. But for you and me, what does abhyasa mean? For you and me, abhyasa means constant and consistent, dedicated practice of dharma, bhakti, jnana. This is what it means. Because this is the stage we're in. Arjuna, you're right. The mind is difficult to control, but inculcate dharma, bhakti, jnana into your life. Infuse every experience of yours with the principles of these yogas. With your intellect, have a spirit of inquiry. With your emotions, cultivate a spirit of surrender and devotion. With your actions, develop a spirit of selfless service and sacrifice. This is the abhyasa. With this abhyasa, slowly the quantum of desires of your mind will reduce, the quality of desires in your mind will improve, and you will become a more calm, composed person. The same mind which was restless, the same mind which you were a victim of, you will become a master of. For all practical purposes, you will become a master of. And you will attain the next stage. You will attain vairagyam. So through abhyasa, you attain vairagyam. When you're in vairagyam, renunciation, uparati, then nothing can disturb you. In the strongest of winds, the strongest of most difficult of circumstances, you will remain stable in. See, it's not that coming onto the spiritual path, you'll gain some blessings of the Lord and your life will be free from problems. No. You will receive the same number of problems, if not more. You'll receive bigger crises in life. But you will be in a position to deal with those crises because you have that strength of uparati, of vairagya. You have attained that capacity to give the right value to things. You have attained that objectivity where you're able to see things as they are, where you have cultivated deep emotions, so you're not moved by superficial emotions. That's the state of vairagya. So, oh Arjuna, indeed you are absolutely correct. It is difficult, but through consistent and sincere practice of karma, bhakti, jnana, yoga, for a yogi and for a sannyasi, through constant, consistent practice of meditation, abhyas of meditation, and that vairagya, reinforcing that vairagya in your system, it can be controlled. This is my assurance to you, O Arjuna. Nobody said it was easy. Nobody said it was easy. But it's certainly the best tool you have. It's certainly the best option you have to live a fulfilling life. Verse number 36. Asamyatatmana yogaha dushprapa iti me matihi vashya vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayataha asamyatatmana yogaha दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमपायतः. Yoga. Yoga, I think, is hard to attain by one who is uncontrolled, but it can be attained by one who is controlled by means of striving. Yatata. One who is constantly and consistently striving through that consistency of purpose, through that shraddha. It's called shraddha. Who is a yatata? Who strives? What does it mean by yatata? By striving. When you have shraddha, you will strive. The word shraddha has been given a very superficial meaning in our understanding, in our culture, unfortunately, in a contemporary language. But shraddha doesn't mean just a superficial faith. It's a very deep conviction. Shraddha is that capacity in you to take yourself to the culmination of a pursuit. Shraddha is that capacity in you to absorb something, an idea, a purpose, and make it your own. When these words are no longer words, intellectual concepts, but they become values with which you live by, that's when you have Shraddha towards this knowledge. Your capacity to inculcate consistency of purpose with which you try to absorb these values, that is Shraddha. So through this Shraddha, through this spirit of striving, O Arjuna, yoga, yuj, that union, that ultimate enlightenment, or even self-development, however you want to look at it, in both sense. Self-development is hard to attain by one who is uncontrolled, by one who is making vague and random attempts, one who is inconsistent, one who is thinking that, okay, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'll be able to attain spiritual mastery. No, this is not a path for those who are casual. The spiritual journey is not meant for a casual approach. It's not about the number of ashrams you have visited, or the number of books you have read, or the number of gurus you have known, or the number of pujas you have done. No. It's not about the breadth of your experience. How deep have you gone? In whatever marga, in whatever path is suited for you, that's what will determine your spiritual success. So yoga is hard to attain for one who is casual in their approach, who is uncontrolled, who remains indulgent in the world. But for one who has Shraddha, for one who strives, for one who with consistency goes deep in any one marga that they choose for themselves, or a combination of margas that they choose for themselves, it is possible. It can be attained. So he's just reiterating what he said in verse number 35, doubling down on the possibility, what is possible through this Shraddha. So very naturally, beautiful answer given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Beautiful answer given to his query. And this really leaves Arjuna with food for thought. There's not much else we can say. Okay, you've said something. Now let me try it out. I guess I have to rise up to that. However, that creates another doubt in Arjuna's mind. What if I'm unsuccessful? What if I don't manage to do it? The path you seem to be telling me, it seems to be taking me away from the world I know, but also to an unknown world, which if I don't attain, it seems that I'll be neither here nor there. What you're asking me to pursue is rather difficult and it's not clear what I will get out of it or even whether I'll get anything out of it. Of course, a lot of things are promised, but will I truly benefit? I don't know. Will I be able to benefit? I don't know. On the one hand. On the other hand, the safety of the world, I know. The safety of everything I have built around me. You're asking me to, you're challenging that world, you're challenging that. So what will happen to me? Will I remain neither here nor there? That's an actual question, which Arjuna asks in verse number 37 and 38. It's a beautiful portion we are entering. Um, Something that's very reassuring to a seeker, right? Very reassuring to a sadhak. Verse number 37 onwards. Arjuna asks, Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopetaha yoga manasaha अप्राप्य योग संसिद्धिं कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति अर्जुन उवाच अयति श्रद्धयोपेतः योगाचलितमानसः अप्राप्य योग संसिद्धिं कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति. Arjuna said, the uncontrolled who possess Shraddha, the uncontrolled, not perfectly controlled, those who have dedication but are not able to quite reach the end, whose mind wanders away from yoga, because yoga is very demanding ultimately, whose mind wanders away from yoga, failing to attain the perfection of yoga. What end does he meet, O Krishna? So, what happens to a person who isn't fully controlled, who hasn't reached the culmination of yoga, who no doubt has a sincerity, but falls short? The truth is that Shraddha itself will carry you. Once you have Shraddha, you don't have to worry. But it's natural for one, it's like a catch-22 situation, you know. You have to have it, then you won't have this question. But if you don't have it, you'll have this doubt. If you possess Shraddha, you will be taken care of. But but before you actually realize that, you will always have this doubt in your mind. Every seeker will have this doubt before they mature on the spiritual path. That what will happen to me? Mera kya hoga? So what happens to a person who fails to attain that perfection, who fails to attain this culmination? Because this seems rather difficult, as you have already also accepted, O Krishna. And he continues in verse number 38. We'll keep this verse as well because it's connected. Kachino bhaya Kachino bhaya vidhrishtaha Chinnabhramiva nashyati Apratishto mahabaho Nimuro brahmanah pati Kachino bhaya vibhrashtaha Chinnabhramiva nashyati Apratishto mahabaho Vimuro brahmanah pati. He says, fallen from both, fallen from the world, the mundane material world, and fallen even from that spiritual world. Fallen from the world I know, and even fallen from the world that I seek to attain. Fallen from both. Does he not perish like a rent cloud, O Mahabaho? Like a cloud that has simply given what it has and vanished. A cloud, once it gives away all its water, itself vanishes. It seems to be lost entirely. But does he not vanish, perish like a rent cloud, O Mahabaho, supportless and deluded in the path of Brahman? So this path of Brahman, this path of spiritual enlightenment, it seems very esoteric, it seems very long drawn, it seems quite unattainable, it seems very far from what I am today. What guarantee is there that I'll get it? This is a natural question in any human being, not only in the spiritual path, in any path. क्या guarantee है जी? And this is the biggest justification we use for not starting something. There's no guarantee of success. And yet, those who have gotten onto any journey know that as you step into any path with conviction, fearlessly, you'll discover things you can't have imagined you will discover from the vantage point you're standing in today. So when you get onto the spiritual path, yes, you will indeed discover beautiful things. And you'll realize you will be supported. But for one who has not jumped into it, one who has not dived into it, these doubts are very natural. Na ghar ka, na ghat ka. That's how they'll feel. Supportless and deluded. Of course, Arjuna makes it a little melodramatic. He's making it a little melodramatic, giving the idea of a cloud that completely evaporates and goes into oblivion, having given whatever it can. So a very natural question from Arjuna and a beautiful, beautiful uh, reply. A set of verses which give a lot of reassurance to a seeker. Before that, verse number 39, he concludes his question with this verse. Verse number 39. Etan me samshayam Krishna chetumarhasya sheshatah vadanyas samshayasyasya cheta na yupapadyate. Etan me samshayam Krishna chetumarhasya sheshatah vadanyas samshayasyasya cheta na yupapadyate. This doubt of mine, O Krishna, you should dispel completely, for there is none other than you to dispel this doubt. O Krishna, there is none other than you to dispel this doubt. Hear the language. The same Arjuna who was giving Krishna a lecture in chapter 1 has developed this complete bhakti bhav towards Krishna. The friend has turned into a devotee. And it's but natural because now, as we are concluding chapter 6, we are concluding in one sense the first section of the Bhagavad Gita and starting the second section, the second set of 6 chapters, which will completely be dominated by that Bhakti Bhavana. And for that Bhakti Bhavana, we can begin to see that Bhakta in Arjuna beginning to come to the surface. This is why the Bhagavad Gita is such a beautiful text. Just take a moment before I jump into this verse. The Bhagavad Gita is a text that appeals to seekers of all paths. As we say, that the spiritual path is, you know, has various, the spiritual journey rather has various paths. And every being, every individual has to have some proportion of all paths in them, although they are predominantly one. Generally, it is that someone is predominantly intellectual, someone is predominantly devotional. So they take to, a certain sampradaya, they take to a certain sort of journey, a certain kind of guru, a certain kind of practice. But the Bhagavad Gita is one unique text which appeals to seekers of a variety of paths, right? To a jnani, it gives the ultimate amritam. To a bhakta, it gives such a beautiful connection with the Lord. Okay, अब ज़्यादा हो रहा है. चलो. Okay, no, 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 no. आज हमने शांति पाठ अच्छे से नहीं किया. हाँ, ये आ गया हमें डिस्टर्ब करने के लिए. हम्म, मारेंगे.
But I have to say that dogs have really an affection for you. They get something from you, that's why they get attracted to you.
जय भैरव बाबा. हरिओम. हाँ, भैरव बाबा के वाहन है ये. चलिए. So the Gita Ji is such a beautiful text because it appeals to seekers, and you'll see that as we are concluding chapter 6 and we begin chapter 7, that a theme will change. the way the Lord addresses Arjuna will change. Anyway, this doubt of mine, which I have presented to you, O Krishna, a sincere seeker's doubt, please dispel, because there is none other than you, O Lord, to dispel this doubt. Right? Arjuna is completely surrendering to Lord Krishna once again in a more sincere way. In the beginning, it was, of course, out of desperation. Here, it's a deeper surrender. Right? So that surrender also grows. Right? Verse number 40. Shri Bhagavanuvacha पार्थ नैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति श्रीभगवानुवाच पार्थ नैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति श्री भगवान उवाच ओ पार्थ, O Partha, son of Pritha, son of Kunti, son of the soil. Partha is using the name of the sun as of Arjuna as the sun, because only to convey that deep affection. So that surrender in Arjuna is being met with the deep affection of the Guru, the deep affection of the Lord. Right? Bhakti is that beautiful connection you develop with that entity you surrender to, be it a Guru in a physical form, be it the Lord in whichever form you connect with. You develop an intangible and a beautiful connection, one of surrender, one of innocence. And the innocence of Arjuna, to say there's none other than you, is met with the love, the deep affection of Sri Bhagavan, O Partha, O son, O child, right? O Partha. Neither here nor even hereafter is there destruction for him. For whom? For one who has gotten onto the spiritual journey. Even though they may not have achieved the ultimate, even though they don't attain enlightenment, even though they don't attain moksha, even though they don't attain the ultimate of meditation, neither here nor hereafter is there destruction. Verily, none who does good, O beloved, none who does good, tat, O beloved, comes to grief. Durgatim tat gacchati. Remember these words. Durgatim tat gacchati. दुर्गति नहीं होगी. चैलेंजेस आएंगे, मुश्किलें आएंगे, क्राइसिस आएंगे, बट दुर्गति नहीं होगी. See, grief is not a bad thing. We all need to face some kind of grief at some point in life. Everybody has 2 or 3 moments of deep, deep grief in their life. It's perhaps true for everyone, no matter how beautiful and how fantastic your life is. Grief is not something to run away from. And neither is, in this sense, he's saying that grief is bad. When he says nobody comes to grief, he's not saying grief is a bad thing or should be shunned, or ऐसी परिस्थितियां सबके जीवन में आती हैं in a different form. And as I say, खुदा ना खास्ता, nobody wishes that. But knowledge is that vessel which holds you in grief. Grief forces you to look at the truth straight in the eye. And knowledge is that which supports you. Because otherwise, the truth is very hard to bear. But when you have established yourself in this knowledge, when you have established yourself in this Vedanta, then you come to a closure with grief. You come to a place of poise. then of course there is sorrow. Then of course there is sadness, but there's a closure. So, oh beloved, for one who is on this journey, for one who has stepped into this ocean of spirituality, even though they don't achieve the ultimate, because the ultimate takes its own course. You will come to it in time, but neither here in this lifetime when you step into it, nor hereafter in all the lifetimes ahead, will there be destruction for you. Vinasha. You will be protected. Whatever you need will be given to you. You will be taken care of. Don't worry. This is a conviction that only strengthens in you when you allow knowledge to soak into you. Maybe this is the third or fourth time I'm teaching this verse. And I can tell you from my perspective, at least, that each time I have taught this verse, it's become a deeper connection, a deeper conviction. In the beginning, it may just sound as words, as words of reassurance, but it's more than just reassurance. It's a truth which keeps you grounded. So, oh Partha, don't worry. I know this doubt that you have. It's a sincere seeker's doubt as you step onto this path. But neither here nor there hereafter, I will assure you, I'm assuring you, there will be no destruction for you. You will be taken care of. Nature will take care of you. Anybody who does good, anybody who is on the path of Kalyanakrit, who does good means, of course, is unselfish and leads a spiritual life, is committed to self-development. For them, they will not come to grief. They will not succumb to grief. They will develop that closure with grief, with whatever life throws at them. What is more, they'll become a pillar of support for others. What is more, life will become much larger than their tunnel vision with which they lived, perhaps. Right? So, beloved, don't worry. You're entering into a beautiful, beautiful journey. It may not conclude as soon as you may want it to conclude, but the very fact that you're here right now, the very fact that you're here right now, and that will become clear in the next couple of verses, the very fact that you're here right now is not a coincidence. The very fact that you're here and listening to these words, the very fact that you're here and committed, coming day in, day out, early in the morning, developing a connection with this knowledge. It's not by chance. It's not by chance. You have put in the work in the past that is making sure you resonate with this today. You have landed in an environment that supports this journey that you are on today. You have put effort in the past that has brought you here, and the same effort you continue today will carry you forward, and the divinity will protect you. Don't worry. With that thought, we'll conclude today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to take class in this rather uncomfortable setting. I won't lie. My plans, my plans sort of. I was telling people who were joining earlier that I had planned to take class from a slightly different location, but I would be standing and it would be much more comfortable than what I'm doing right now. But it's too much of a breeze this morning, so my laptop was flying away. You can imagine. So, nonetheless, it has been pleasurable. So, thank you so much for joining in and giving me the opportunity. Maybe we'll do this again in a more organized way. But with that thought, we'll conclude today. We'll take up any quick questions. Now you can come. Now you can
Sir,
come.
where
Now I
are
have all the
you?
time for you.
Where are you?
I am near Ram Jhula.
Rishikesh.
Behind me is Ram Jhula. I don't know if you can see.
So how's the Vanprastha ashram going?
Vanprastha Ashram is very good.
Yeah, I definitely plan to come whenever it takes place next time.
Please do. Please do. Yes. Okay, stop it.
He's a street
So
dog. You
I
shouldn't be
have
doing that with him.
No, he's vaccinated. I can see this.
Oh.
He's got stuff. Yeah. But yeah.
yeah.
Rituji, yes.
So I have a question here about
Mm,
grief.
mm,
Uh, so they say that in case, I mean, like what you've explained, that if you have grief, you'll know how to handle it, and you'll be taken care of. That
Hmm.
assurance, and like you said, grief is good in a way, which is all
Hmm.
true. But my thing is here that here, when we are referring to grief,
Hmm.
are we talking about grief um, that Arjuna was facing in the battlefield, like with his close ones, um,
Hmm.
you know, uh, uh, to having to hurt his family and kins, but uh, the sense of guilt, or that kind of grief that you have, or a grief that
पाँच मिनट बाद
uh,
हाँ. Hmm.
matlab, I'm trying to just understand what is the uh, in, grief, what all does it include?
Encompass.
I mean,
Yeah.
here,
So look again, looking from Arjuna's verse,
right?
grief is a state of utter helplessness where you don't know
Hmm,
where you are, where things don't make sense, right? Arjuna's question
hmm,
is what happens to someone who's lost on the path, who hasn't really achieved something, or whatever they thought they were, whatever they thought they had, becomes meaningless, right? When they seem to be, because that is life, right? Whatever castles you build in the air, they, at one point, they as a child, whatever thoughts you had, whatever you imagined life was, life taught you it's not about that. Life is not about toys and games. As a youth, you thought life was all about certain aims and ambitions. Life slowly teaches you that it's not about that. You thought life was all about making money. Maybe at some point, life will teach you it's not all about that. You thought life was all about having good experiences. At some point, maybe life will teach you it's not about that. So, whenever we are faced with such a predicament where we feel lost, where we feel helpless, that puts a human being in a state of grief, right? And they don't really know where to turn to. That's when knowledge comes to the rescue. That's when a guru comes to the rescue. That's when this entire body of Sanatan Dharma, eternal value, comes to the rescue because it shows you the light. It gives your life a new, renewed direction, right? And a direction which will sustain you sort of for the next couple of steps ahead, and also perhaps show you. It's like Google Maps. You turn on the direction and you'll get to see sort of, a vague idea of where is your destination, and you'll also get a clear idea of the immediate steps you need to take next. When you see that, you'll be you'll feel a new sense of hope, a new sense of reassurance, right? But grief essentially covers everything. Grief covers all all such conflicts and all such sort of crises in life.
hmm, right. Thank you. Uh, I have one more question, just to uh, understand, sir, that in verse 37, it talks about uh, wanders away from yoga, the
Mm.
uncontrolled who possesses Shraddha, whose mind wanders away from yoga, failing to attain perfection in yoga. So, yoga, uh, I'm sorry if this question would be very, I mean, the thing is that yoga, what do we understand about being attached to dharma, karma, and bhakti? Or what is, I mean,
Yoga means the spiritual path, right?
the
So
spiritual path? Okay.
the spiritual path,
Yeah.
right? So
Huh.
just
Huh.
so yoga is an all-encompassing term which
Okay.
covers all the various paths. Now, whichever path you have taken, or
All
whichever
right.
set of paths you have taken, maybe
Hmm.
when you
Hmm.
don't reach the culmination of it, when you don't reach the end of it, because it's a long and winding road. It's not a
Hmm.
straightforward, okay, what you're trying to attain in the path of yoga is, it seems sort of inconceivable in a sense, right? What is enlightenment? So he's talking specifically about that, where he says that, look, what if I don't reach the end of this spiritual journey,
Mm.
right? What will happen to me?
Mm. Mm.
So yoga, it encompasses karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, mantra yoga, dhyana yoga, tantra yoga, all the yogas, raja yoga, whatever yoga you can conceive, right?
So, meaning जुड़ के रहिए आप.
जुड़ने की the path of joining. Yoga means the path of joining. जब आप join हो जाते हो, आप युज हो जाते हो,
Okay.
right? So yoga is the path to yuj, to join. So the having fallen from yoga means having fallen short of the culmination of yoga. It's like saying we get distracted on the spiritual path, right? ठीक है, we may not be able to be perfect students, but what if we even, with a little bit of sincerity, develop a little bit of regular practice, but are not able to get the whole message? It's like asking that question. Will I be lost? Will I be confused? Will I be neither here nor there? It's I mean, we don't have to make it too mystical. It doesn't have to be a very complicated question. Essentially, one who is not able, because it's a difficult path, because it's not easy, like we have talked about in the beginning of class, what happens to such a person? Because it's but natural that people will fall short. Yeah. Any other question?
Thank you. No.
If not, say goodbye to Rishikesh. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll
Hari
see you
Om.
again in
Hari
the
Om.
next class. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much.
Hari Om,
Hari Om,
sir.
Hari Om,
Thank
Hari
you.
everyone.
Thank you
Om.
for giving
Thank
us the
you.
darshan of Ganga
Sir,
ji.
next time you have to take us.
Ganga Maiya ki jai.
Thank
Hari
you.
Om.
Yes.
Ganga Maya ki jai. Yeah. Thank you for showing us Ganga ji in the morning.
Hari Om.
Thank you,
Hari
sir.
Om.
Hari Om.